Hello. It's quite an exciting day for me here at Mark's Garden UK because the bare root box plants for the formal parterre at the front of the cottage have finally arrived. And today's the day I'm going to get them in the ground. Whilst I'm planting these, I'll tell you how to plant them, and I'll also explain all the stages I've gone through to get to this point. And then when I've covered all those stages up to now, I'll tell you a little bit more about what I need to do in future to care for my formal box tree parterre. So let's get planting. Of course, the first thing I had to do was decide that I wanted a formal parterre because there is quite a bit of maintenance in getting one up and running. But once it's in, going forwards, it's a pleasure. So I've decided I'm going to have one. And I'm having it at the front of the cottage where I can see it through the windows. Once I decided I was definitely having one, it was time to clear the ground. So I cleared all the plants out of this area. I did a video on moving the hydrangea. I did a video on how to transplant roses. And I also saved all the other plants in a kind of hospital bed at the bottom of the garden because I want to reuse those. Once I'd cleared the ground, I dug it over with my fork and spade and aerated it because it was quite compacted, having been a garden for many years. Once I dug it over, I set my mind to designing the parterre, and I did a video for you on how to plan and design a parterre, and I came up with this design which I laid out with planks and strings until I was satisfied that that's what I wanted to go with. Once I'd decided on my design, on the bare earth I laid it out with these planks and I enriched the soil with blood and bone meal where the plants are going to be planted. Then I dug that into the soil and I tread all over the soil and levelled it off because I wanted it to be quite level because I'm going to put gravel on top and I don't want the gravel running off to the sides off a slope. So it was quite level. At that stage I ordered my weed control membrane, which is a bit of a cheat. I suppose most real gardeners would want to weed all the soil, but I want this to be a low maintenance area, so I've decided to use weed control membrane. It stops the weeds from coming up and also it acts as a kind of mulch. It keeps the moisture in the soil around the roots of the plants. And I can disguise it with golden gravel and get on with something else in another area of the garden. Once I'd laid down the weed control membrane, I weighed it down with all these bricks at the edges to stop it blowing away because we've had some quite high winds recently. I've also put lots of weights here because I want these pieces to stay in place because I've cut them using a soldering iron, that was a tip that I gave you, and you can see that video on my channel as well. And at that stage I'm really kind of ready to order the plants, and I bought these online from a company called Best for Hedging. The service I got was really excellent, and these were only about £2 a plant, and I think that's great value. You're getting a lot of plant and a lot of good root system there for £2 each. I bought 150 of them. I'm spacing them out at 20 centimetres between each one, and I've also got this plank here and I've marked 20 centimetre points along there. That will act as a straight edge and also like a yardstick to show me where the next plant's got to go. Having already enriched this soil with blood, fish and bone, I'm not going to bother adding any more organic material. It's quite good soil, this. It's quite fertile and it's well drained. There's quite a lot of gravel here because this was a kind of a cottage garden which had weed control membrane on it before, and it's quite a lot of gravel on top, and I dug that in to help with the drainage for these plants. In terms of planting, it's quite straightforward. I've done these bare root parterres before. There's your plant, there's your root. Now this was planted in the ground to a certain point. You don't want to bury it any deeper than that because there's a risk the stalk might rot. So if anything, bury it slightly higher. Dig an ample hole for the roots. Get the roots nicely tucked into that hole. Using this is the first one, but I'll be using this as a straight line to continue the line along with the marking points. And then gently tuck that soil back in. I acknowledge it looks a little bit of an untidy mess at that moment, but stick with it, as in about an hour's time, you'll see a transformation in this plot. That's one in, that's the first one. I ought to celebrate and do a toast. Let's get the next few in. So again, I'm just digging away. This soil has already been dug over once, so I'm just removing the soil here, taking a plant, a bit of string here that was tying them all together, getting that lovely established root system into the earth at the point here, and then let's just get that soil back in. I just gently firm it in with my knuckles. I might do a little bit more firming later on, but just for now that will do the job. Number 2, number 3 is going here. It couldn't really be any easier than this. I won't bore you to death by letting you watch me plant 150 of these, so I will now fast forward a little bit to the next point in time where I want to tell you something revealing and useful. See you in a moment. So there's our first 10 in, and I'm already seeing a lovely neat line joining together. 20 centimetres apart is easily close enough. You don't want them to be any closer than this. This straight edge has been a great idea. The markings I put on every 20 centimetres have been excellent for just helping me to space them out properly. Of course, you can buy these plants bare roots at this time of year because they are in their dormancy. The roots are not growing, the plants are not growing and not putting too many demands on the roots. If you leave it too far beyond the end of February, you're into buying potted plants and they're slightly more expensive. Very good value buying box bare roots as I've done. Let's get on with planting a few more and I'll see you in a moment. I've decided to make life slightly easy on myself by using my fork just to dig over the soil. It's harder work than I thought with this wonderful grubbing hoe. I've compacted it down quite well, so I'm just going to turn it over along the lines with this fork. That's much better already. Every day's a school day. I'm always learning. I compacted it down a little bit too well. That won't do the roots any good. So I've turned it all over again with the fork and it's so much easier to plant into. Let's go down with the next 20 to the other end of this line. 5 a metre is what I'm doing. So I've got 6 metres up here, so there'll be 30 plants along here and they'll be in no time. It's all in the preparation. I'll see you in a few minutes. So there's our first 29 in. I thought it was going to be 30 along this edge, but maybe you lose one at either end, I don't know. But there's 29 in there. It didn't take long, what, half an hour at the very most. I even had a chance to stop with one of the neighbours that was walking past. Now, we are expecting quite a big storm in the UK. Storm Eunice is due tomorrow, so you'll see at the end of the planting, I'm actually going to do a bit of protection on these. I'm going to put bricks all the way down the outside just to keep them firmed in at the root, because I don't want this very strong wind to start coming along and dislodging them. Eventually it will be covered in golden gravel and I'll be able to take all those bricks out. I'm going to order that after I've got these in the ground because I don't want it arriving and sitting around before I get this part of the job finished. So onwards we shall go. I'm thinking about which bit to do next. I don't want to get in my own way, so I'm probably going to start in that corner and come out in a kind of fan so that I'm not tripping over myself and damaging the work that I've already done. And of course, as you've probably observed, I've just cut a straight line through my weed fabric. Some people prefer to use like a cross method, which is good because you can cut across, fold it back, plant in and then fold those corners back. When you're planting a long line of box plants like this, I think it's better to just cut a line and then just trim it back in around the edges, as I will do shortly. I did use the cross method for these specimen topiary box plants here. And incidentally, there's a video about those on my channel. It was an experiment. I had a couple of pyramids and they'd been in a pot for about 15 years, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a go at topiary. It will get there, it'll take its time, but it's coming back in the middle. Have a look at the video, lots of fun. Let's get on with the rest of this. I'll see you soon. There we are, the parterre is planted. I've only got a couple of small things left to do. I'll trim this weed fabric in between each plant so that it folds down flat, and I will order 2 big bulk bags of golden gravel, because that will go down all over this weed fabric and it will cover it and it will make this box hedge pop. In terms of ongoing maintenance, well, there isn't really a lot. I trim my box hedges once a year. Some people do them twice because they like a tighter box hedge. I like mine to be a bit more loose and airy because I think that's healthier for the plant. It lets the air through and it stops mildew, and it might make it more healthy and therefore more resistance to blight. Who knows? It needs to be kept very well watered, especially for the first 12 months, possibly even 2 years, until these plants get the roots down and become established. I will feed it at least once a week during the growing season. I'll probably make some homemade plant food out of nettles, but I'll also buy some liquid feed, high in potassium, because that's great for the foliage. And the cost of these plants was £300, which seems a lot, but I'll be enjoying this year in, year out for at least 20 years. That's £15 a year. It's not much more than £1 a month, so I think that's great value. I love my formal boxwood parterres. I hope you've enjoyed this whole process. If you have, please do subscribe to my channel, like the video and comment below, and don't forget to hit the notifications bell so that you'll know about the next video that I do. And I'll see you soon.